Good afternoon. I'm Dr. William Schimmel, and welcome to the seminars. It's our 28th SMASH year. You just heard Meta Triennale, a Setta Triennale. That was Pietro Darro's theme song. He is the daddy of our piano accordion. And he used that theme song for his radio hour. And a number of accordionists during the golden days of radio had their own show. The great Charles Magnanti, Joe Biviano, Phil Baker, and by the way, yours truly, Dr. Schimmel, has his own radio show along with Brian Dewan, who you'll hear later, and it's called The Old In and Out. Radio was an important factor in the development of the accordion, and it made many an accordionist very, very, very famous. And they were some of the world's highest paid accordionists during that particular time. Then, when the golden days of radio were over, it seemed to move into the areas of film. And you heard it in soundtracks. You didn't always see it, but you heard it in soundtracks. And so therefore, there were many famous accordionists by the name of Anonymous. And I made it a point to find out who they were. It fascinated me. Then, of course, it seemed to sideswipe rock and roll for a bit. And we've kind of known that story. I've been telling it many, many, many years. And it seemed to reoccur sometime in the 80s when there was this oversaturation of electronica. And all of a sudden, acoustical instruments started to appear, in some ways as a reaction. But all of a sudden, the accordion started making its way back into the pop music scene. Now, what I'm going to introduce to you is Bob Goldberg. He's a composer, he's an accordionist, and every year he puts on an event at Greenwood Cemetery. It's an elegant place, and beautiful architecture, beautiful landscape. And as a matter of fact, Louis Gottschalk, Leonard Bernstein, they're buried there. And the name of the piece and video that we're going to hear is Some Regular Trees. That will feature Bob, that will feature Denise Konchelik, Gene Valonis, Will Holzhauser, and Carl Reel. You know, uh, we were talking about the accordion's return in this acoustical manner. Well, still today, as an accordionist, I also play other instruments. I was a pretty decent bassoonist. I played a hot New Orleans tuba. And I was a little piano prodigy when I was very, very, very young. And I got a pat on the head at concerts. But when I heard all my uncles come out at parties playing the accordion, I knew I wanted to play the accordion. It was more fun. And it still is with me today, which brings me to the topic of the accordion as a kind of a homing pigeon. Everything for me always returns to the accordion. And there are times when I say, well, I think I'd like to play the organ for a while. I think I'd like to play my piano for a while. And then I do. And then, sure enough, something seems to always pull me back to the accordion. And I call that the accordion as homing pigeon. And I think that happened to a lot of people in the pop music scene. Many of them played accordion at one particular time, and they took up other instruments. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, the accordion started to pull them in. I know for a fact when I got a call from Tom Waits, things were kind of going acoustical, at least he was. And he hired me to play accordion, but I ended up playing pump organ, I ended up playing tuba, I ended up playing cocktail piano and all these other instruments, but in the long run, it always ended up with the accordion. And the accordion was always the homing pigeon. And I think other accordionists can tell the same story. Back at Juilliard, all the organ majors I met, I'd say about 3/4 of them actually at one time took accordion lessons. And some of them actually went back to the accordion later on, some in a serious manner and some for fun. Our next artist, Will Holzhauser, was a jazz pianist on the scene in the Brooklyn area and so forth. Someone gave him an accordion as a gift for a joke. And what happened is he got hooked. And he realized, why be another jazz pianist? And so he started studying with me, and he turned into a wonderful jazz accordionist. And not only jazz, but in all mediums. He's played with many, many named people. Suzanne Vega, Regina Carter. He's worked on Broadway. He's worked in symphony orchestras. So I would like to introduce to you Will Holzhauser, and he's going to tell us what technique really, really is. Will Holzhauser.
Hi everyone, I'm Will Holzhauser, and Bill has asked me to talk today about technique. So this talk could be called Technique and Ideas or Musical Technique. Technique works best when it's connected to the rest of your music. Technique is really just doing what you need to do to achieve your musical goals. It is not a separate abstract activity that's separate from your repertoire, the music you usually play. Different people may use different kinds of technique to achieve different musical goals. Technique should be integrated with the rest of your music. It should help you achieve freedom. It should help you gain a sense of release, both physical release and mental release. Freedom to play the music that you want to play. It should not increase your tension or get you more wound up. Technique should not make you into a robot. Technique is not necessarily about playing more notes faster. In fact, sometimes with technique, less is more. So let's talk about some practical suggestions for practicing. One thing I like to do is start every practice session by playing a slow piece of music that I love. This puts me in a good mood, puts me into a creative zone. It gives me a sense of pleasure. This could be any piece, a piece you know well, or a new piece that you're working on, as long as it feels relaxing to play and is slow, so that you're warming up your music muscles. And I don't know what the doctors would say about the science end of this, but it could be that, playing music that gives you a sense of emotional satisfaction may get some endorphins flowing. It's got to do something good for your body. So that's a good way to start out a practice session. And then you can move on to whatever you have to do next, playing a piece, or you can go to technical exercises. Again, starting slowly with long notes, slow scales, things like that. Now, there are a lot of different ways to practice technique. There's scales, arpeggios, books like Hanon. All those are good, but you can also create your own technique exercises out of music that you're working on. And sometimes this can save you time. So rather than doing a bunch of, standalone things and then going on to practice passages that you need to work on in the music that you're working on, you can take some of those difficult passages and make little exercises out of them. Here's an example of one that I was working on earlier this year. I was playing in a concert version of the Stephen Sondheim show, Anyone Can Whistle. And there's a little passage in the accordion part, beautifully handwritten from 1963, it's sort of like a tarantella rhythm, a 6/8 rhythm, and it had some thirds that move very quickly. So I decided, wow, this is tricky for me, so I'm going to play this just as slowly as I need to in a way where my hand can feel relaxed. And I'm going to do it a little bit every day, because learning to do something like this, it's not something that's going to come in one day. And in fact, you can injure yourself if I spend an hour practicing fast thirds, I could hurt my muscles. So I just played it very slowly every day for a while. First, I worked out the fingering, and then I started really slowly. Just being conscious to keep my hands very relaxed. So, and then I, worked on it every day, moved up the tempo a little bit every day, and eventually got it up to speed. And then they cut it from the show. So you can make your own exercises, save yourself time, and help yourself learn the music more efficiently by making little exercises out of difficult passages. So now let's talk about technique and improvising in reference to jazz in particular. Learning jazz often involves working on scales and patterns, learning a different mode that goes with each chord. This is very useful in jazz, but again, keep in mind the purpose of doing this is not the patterns themselves, but to allow you to have freedom in that harmonic context when you're improvising. So when you see a tune, you know what your harmonic choices are. Charlie Parker would do this for hours and hours every day, but he always brought it into a creative space. If you read through transcriptions of Charlie Parker solos, you'll see a lot of so-called wrong notes that fit perfectly in with the musical flow. So he was always playing for the creative goal and not just running the patterns. So let's look at an example of how to work with this. So say you're practicing something like the G minor pentatonic scale. Very similar to the blues scale, very useful in many, many different kinds of music, not just jazz. So you can run it up and down when you're practicing like I just did there, or you can also explore the scale as you practice it and practice improvising while you're practicing the scale itself. So moving around the scale and making up melodies, because after all, that's what improvisation is, instant composing. So that's a way to get used to the harmonic language without getting yourself locked into just running up and down patterns. Now, if you are playing, and if you're playing with some people or in a performance, and you find yourself, I'm locked into these patterns. I'm just zooming up and down some scales. There are some escape hatches you can use to get out of that. You can leave space. Space is always good in music. It helps you hear the rhythm more, and it helps your phrasing. So leave space. You can also go to a rhythmic device. Just go to one note for a while and play a rhythm. Or two notes. You can throw a wrong note if you're locked into your pattern. Throw in a wrong note. That will lighten the mood. It'll be funny. It throws some salt into the recipe, and it can get you out of your harmonic rut. So those are some ideas for integrating technique, scales, and patterns into improvisation. Technique is also just awareness of what you're doing. It's often just about being aware of your options, being aware of your articulations, your touch, your bellows pressure, your posture, your positioning, your balance. And often in all of those things, less is more. Don't overwork yourself. One important lesson I learned from Bill is that musical tension does not equal physical tension. So if you're playing some intense passage that's, supposed to express something musically intense, or whatever, don't clench up your muscles. That will not help you express the musical tension, and it could even injure you. So even if you're playing something kind of edgy and intense, keep your hand, your wrist, your arm relaxed. Keep your whole body relaxed. So thinking about safety when you're practicing, if at any point when you're practicing you start to feel pain, stop immediately. Take a long break, or come back the next day. When you come back, maybe play a different piece of material, warm up slowly, play something slow and beautiful that you love. Make sure to warm up your hands before you go back to that intense thing that was making your hands hurt. Because it really is like being an athlete, and you don't want to over practice, you don't want to overwork yourself, either mentally or physically. Sometimes in a long practice session, you can get to a point of diminishing returns where you feel tired, you start to get frustrated with the material, and it's actually just not productive to continue at that point. So those are some things to keep in mind in relation to technique and safety. So I hope you found some of these things useful. Thanks, Bill, as always, for bringing us together for these seminars. Happy practicing, and as John Cage once said, don't forget to have fun.
I'm now going to play a work of Peter Jarvis, and I've been performing his work for many, many years at the seminars. He's a percussionist, one of the best I ever heard, and I gave him an assignment. I said, Peter, since our weekend is called Too Much Information, Too Little Time, but we do it anyway, could he write me something according to that particular title? And an idea came into my mind. In the Stravinsky book written by Robert Kraft, they mention a time towards the end of Stravinsky's life when he was approached by BBC to do a test pattern to write music for it. And Picasso was going to be doing the graphics. And he thought about it. He said, well, he can't use clarinets, it's too oily. Perhaps flutes, and they would have to flutter in one swoop. And I don't think it was ever brought to completion. So I asked Peter Jarvis to write something for me in that particular vibe. And he came up with a wonderful piece. And the title is Test Card PJ2B-12. And you can see it on his website, Peter Jarvis. Dr. Robert Young McMahon is one of our leading exponents of music written especially for the accordion. He heads the Composers Commissioning Committee for the American Accordionists Association, which has commissioned wonderful works for the accordion by named composers under the guidance of the late Elsie Bennett. And Bob is going to talk, and he's going to then give us examples of a work by Carlos Surinach and David Diamond. And so I introduce to you Dr. Robert Young McMahon.
Hello everyone, I'm Bob McMahon, and welcome to my discussion and performance this year of 2 of the 5 works at the intermediate level that Elsie Bennett commissioned major composers to write in the 1960s, and who, except for one, had previously composed pieces for the AAA at the usual highly advanced or professional level. Here is the list of the works. At last year's seminar, I performed and discussed one of the pieces therein, Creston's Embryo Suite. This year we will do the same for 2 others, Prelude of the Sea by Carlos Surinach, and Introduction and Dance by David Diamond. Next summer I plan to do similar service to the remaining 2 works on the list, Still's Lilt and Cerebrie's Danza Ritual. In all this, I hope to inspire you to learn to perform some or all of these. By the way, I discussed these works in detail in the 2015 and 2017 editions of the AAA Festival Journal. These articles are now preserved on the AAA website if you wish to read them. We will begin with Surinach's Prelude of the Sea. Strangely, Surinach never explained his title for the piece. In any event, it is clearly in a delineated A-B-A form, with the 2 A's 100% identical. Here is just the A section. It is a kind of boisterous sea chanty, perhaps, that with its full registers in both hands, forte dynamic, and often long phrases presents a real challenge to bellowing. Otherwise, there are no particularly difficult technical hurdles. The one has to work at the phrasing, right-hand octave passages, and left-hand bass solos. Now the B section. Note that the left hand of the first system repeats 2 more times against an ever-expanding right-hand melody built on a faux flamenco scale of the composer's invention. Though neither part is all that technically difficult to perform, the section will play tricks with your mind, a consistent repetitious bass theme versus a constantly changing melody. This will require quite a bit of slow practice over a period of days before the passage begins to feel secure and automatic. Besides Surinach's flamenco scale and repeating ground bass, partially shown here again from the previous slide, but with the invented flamenco scale spelled out this time in musical notation, we see here another interesting creation by the composer, a made-up octatonic scale that occurs multiple times and serves as a kind of extensive coda to the B section prior to the da capo return to the A section. And now on to David Diamond's Introduction and Dance. Its basic form is just that, an introduction, we'll call that the A section, and a B section, which is the allegretto, which is the dance. Much of the very brief adagio introduction and following very lengthy allegretto, the dance, consists of various scale fragments of different sorts, mostly ascending and ranging from 5 to 7 notes, that then go to widely varying musical destinations. All start on A, or more often G, and are excerpted on the next page. While the introduction is rather melancholy, the dance is essentially a lilting, light-hearted, and somewhat mischievously comical waltz. I felt that Diamond's metronome marking for the dance was far too slow to represent the character of the waltz or the allegretto marking, and thus elevated it to quarter note equals circa 132 in my performance. Forgive me, maestro. A glance at the excerpts here will show the similarities and differences between the almost obsessively frequent occurrences of the main scale-like motif mentioned a moment ago. Such similarities and differences occurring so often is a cause of confusion as one learns to play the piece, requiring much well-organized sectional and repetitively slow daily practicing before all is secure in performance. Otherwise, the right-hand part offers no daunting technical challenges, while the left-hand part does have a few fairly tricky turns, but is otherwise quite uncomplicated. I hope this was useful to you and that you will consider learning some of these pieces. Here again is my email address if you would like copies of this presentation. Take a look at some of the other notes that I have on this page as well. So long and good luck. Thank you.
Well, let's move to the accordion and morality. What do I mean by that? What I really mean is that all accordionists, especially if you want to rub elbows with other artists that aren't accordionists, then there's a certain protocol code that other musicians know that maybe some accordionists actually don't. And obviously, for the obvious, never punch the conductor in the mouth, or never tell a conductor you don't know what you're doing. That has happened, and years ago that has happened, and that person lost work, of course, and so what you need to learn to do is find the proper protocol that allows you to function in an orchestra, in any particular professional situation that makes you on an equal level. Now, I can only vouch for this as someone who actually did something that they weren't supposed to do. So I'm not being Mr. Morality here. Far from it. Back at my Juilliard days, I was called to play in the Juilliard Orchestra on accordion. And it was a piece by B.A. Zimmerman, his last composition, and all I had was the note D throughout. And I had an attitude about it. I really did. I had a total attitude about it. And on the same program was a gentleman who was playing the Saint-Saëns Concerto No. 3 for violin and orchestra. And it's a piece that I learned for a contest many, many, many years ago. So as he was warming up on stage, I came out and I started playing the same piece on the accordion. And everybody started shuffling their feet for me, and the conductor laid into me. And he really, really gave me a good scolding. And the conductor was Jose Cerebre, and actually who wrote for the accordion as an AAA commissioned. And he said, "Stop it, enough of that." And I ended up, of course, having to apologize to him, to the orchestra, and to the violinist. And everyone was right. So I had learned very, very, very quickly, don't do those things. And what I didn't realize, here's what I didn't realize, how important that note D was in the orchestra. It turned out that that particular D was the entire anchor of the orchestra that moves through various textures. And the piece couldn't exist without it. So it was an important part, although I didn't think it was. And so, advice to everyone, everything that you play in an orchestra, whether it's a big part or 3 notes, is important. And now the next day when I went in for rehearsal, Jose Cerebre, the conductor, since all was forbidden, not forbidden, well, maybe so, all was forgiven, he handed me a copy of his Danza Ritual for accordion, and which was an AAA commissioned work. And so that's my story. Establish good protocol in any professional situation, and you will be in demand. Now, we're going to hear a work by a group called Bactopus. It's an accordion quartet that initially started out to play Bach. And they, of course, moved into other things. And they've even commissioned composers to write for their quartet. A little story about them. I remember hearing something on the radio, the classical music radio, about this week of Baroque music. And they had mentioned that all the top Baroque ensembles from all over the world were going to be there. And they literally said all the top Baroque ensembles from all over the world are going to be there, including an accordion quartet called Bactopus. And so, word to the wise is, if you start an ensemble, a good title will help. Now, by the way, they play well, and that's essential, but a good title is a good thing, especially today, when it's harder and harder to get that notice that you may need. And now we're going to hear a work that they commissioned by a composer named Dean Ulsher. And Dean and I go way, way back when he was hosting 2 shows on WNYC, one called This Is What I Live For, which came out of an article by me, and the Weekend News, which included musical artists. And he's an accordionist as well. And his piece is called Waiting to Be Born. And it's also a video to go along with it. And the performers are Robert Duncan, Gene Valonis, Peter Flint, and Mayumi Miyoka. Ladies and gentlemen, Waiting to Be Born by Dean Ulsher. That was a rendition of The Blue Room by Rodgers and Hart, arranged by me, Dr. William Schimmel. And this ends our first masterclass. And we're going to be moving into the first concert, but we'll take a bit of a breather before we do that. And thank you so much. I'm Dr. William Schimmel. Welcome to concert number 1 at our 28th year of the accordion masterclasses and concerts. And we call them the accordion seminars. I'm Dr. William Schimmel, and we're back. And we explore everything. We explore not only the musical medium, every aspect of the accordion from as new as we can get, and also new takes on old material as well. We also do performance, which used to be called performance art. We use the visual medium. We use installations. Everything where the accordion can be an integral and extremely important part of. The next work, danced and choreographed by Mickey Goodman, with music by me, explores the counterpoint of time and space. Mickey's choreography and dance is a particular rhythmic line, and my performing is a counterpoint of that line. And this piece is titled Kinesis. Dr. Robert Young McMahon is, again, as I said in our masterclass, if you were tuned in there, one of our leading exponents of contemporary music for the accordion, written specifically for the accordion. It's kind of interesting because it's fantastic that Bob has devoted his accordion life to this. And it's also interesting what the accordion can do when it plays any other kind of music. It's the ultimate cover instrument. When you play a work or any kind of work on the accordion, whether it's popular or classical, it seems to become a new work. And I don't know any other instrument that kind of does that. It's kind of an interesting cover oracle. And at the same time, we really need new works by up-and-coming composers, as well as the wonderful group of named composers that Bob will give you a rundown of. So Bob composed 3 tidbits, which he will explain to you in this concert. And so I will now introduce to you Dr. Robert Young McMahon, and he goes under the name of Bob. So, Bob, take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Bob McMahon, and I am continuing a project I began in last year's seminars, encouraging accordionists at the intermediate level or beyond to play some of the AAA commission works composed at that level of skill. To further aid this mission this year, I have composed 3 short, fairly easy little pieces myself. I am calling tidbits that I will briefly describe, play, and hopefully persuade you to eventually learn to play as well. I'll explain a little further as we go along.
These are very short programmatic pieces in various contemporary styles. They lay pretty easily under the fingers for the most part and should be fun to learn. In that vein, I offer a friendly challenge to all to master 1 or more of these short vignettes across the year and send a video or audio recording of your performance to me. Perhaps we could arrange from these an online recital video later in the year just for fun. Email me at mcmahon@tcnj.edu, all lowercase, to receive a free copy of the score and/or for you to eventually send me your recording if you decide to participate. You may also request a copy of this presentation if you feel you need to watch it more than just this one time. Now I will display the complete score of each piece along with a few words about its style and special traits. More detailed comments in red on the scores may be quickly read as well. You'll have about 30 seconds to examine each page of the scores. 3 videos of my performances of the pieces will follow, accompanied by the reappearance of the score pages in smaller print if you wish to follow the music while I play. This piece is in a highly chromatic, somewhat atonal style, creating counterpoint and harmonies of widely mixed consonant and dissonant intervals throughout. You will hear a traditional-sounding chordal piece in hymn style played exclusively on the major and minor stradella system chord buttons in the left-hand part. It will be disturbed now and then by a single-line dissonant obligato countermelody in the right-hand part. The perceived melodic line of the left-hand chords will vary between different accordions depending upon which pitch the manufacturer based the left-hand sector's tuning. Thus, we could have a bit of automatic tonal aleatoric activity, which is the result of technical conditions beyond our control. Spooky! Dog Catches Car is made up of minimalistic, repetitive patterns based mostly on arpeggiated quartal harmonies, that is, chords and intervals of the fourth rather than conventional thirds. Near the end, there are tone clusters of dissonantly indeterminate pitches. Good news, the dog, though rattled by its catch, survives as it yips off into the distance at the end, musically portrayed by the accordion.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful, safe, happy, and accordionistic year. And please do consider getting in touch with me about this project. There's the email again on the screen. I hope to hear from you. Goodbye.
Talking about new music, especially written for the accordion, Gene Pritzker has written plenty of it for me. As a matter of fact, he entitled the next one TMI, of course, for too much information. And if you know Gene, he heads the Composers Concordance. My first composition student at Juilliard was Patrick Hardish, who was the founder of Composers Concordance. Now Gene Pritzker heads it. And Gene seems to have a premiere of a piece every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, all over the world, and he manages to show up at every concert. And so here is one of those many, many pieces that he had composed this year, and this is called TMI. By the way, I asked him, what's the vibe of it? And he says to me, oh, it's the Duke. And I said, Duke of Earl? Like Duke, 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 Duke of Earl. And he said, no, no. And he said, it's, the Duke, Duke Ellington. And I said to myself, oh my God, we've been getting so many mainstream pieces this year. In our second master class, we're getting some Beatles. Luckily from albums Revolver, and later on, of course, Yellow Submarine, which I didn't know. And so a number of mainstream pieces will be presented. And of course, some Schubert or takes on Schubert. And again, when you hear them played on the accordion, they absolutely sound like new pieces. And that they were, frankly, could have been written for the accordion. And so here is TMI by Gene Pritzker. And here we go. Gene Pritzker, TMI. Lots of information in there. And he dedicated that to Duke Ellington. I think you can hear some of the Duke Ellington vibe in there. Now, Gene Vilonis and Denise Konchelik, they got together and Denise composed a work called Kemp's Jig, and they got together for a little bit of a afternoon soiree together. And let's hear and see what they came up with. Gene Vilonis and Denise Konchelik.
Hi. Hi there.
Made it.
Yes, phew. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, me too. God. I think I drove around LaGuardia 3 times.
Jeez. Seriously?
Seriously.
I was just feeling grateful for finding parking and
Right? I don't know if it's on sale. I've got like 10 minutes, so let's see
you know,
what we can.
we'll do what we can. Uh, okay.
All right, you gotta.
That was pretty good. But before we do it again, I should check this. Let's see what that was. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to go.
All right.
We'll do this again. I'll send you
yeah.
texts. I'll give you calls. We'll
See
just
you next
we'll
week.
figure it out. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Dan Cooper, he's on the board of Composers Concordance. And we have a band called the Yorkvillians as well. And recently, I curated a concert at Lincoln Center Library based upon new takes on Schubert called Not Entirely Schubert. And Dan Cooper contributed a swing version of Good Nacht. And I would like to share that with you. Good Nacht, Schubert, arranged by Dan Cooper. We're now going to hear a work of Eugene Itor. My own mentor, Dr. Jacob C. Newpower, called Eugene Itor the Dean of Accordion Composers. And to play this work called 5 O'Clock Rush, a wonderful novelty number in the style of what we used to call, maybe we still call it that today, the Radio City School of Playing. To play it is Rita Davidson, who is devoting her accordion life to the music of Eugene Itor. He was her mentor, and this would mark the 100th year of Eugenia Tour. A little story behind that. One day, Dr. Newpower called me up, and he said to me, I'm getting a strange feeling. I feel that Gina Tour has passed away. And I said, well, why don't you find out and call? And he called, and his daughter, Carol Ann, answered the phone, and apparently Jean did in a car accident. And that's how close they were. And we're now going to hear Rita play 5 o'clock Rush in that wonderful novelty style. You might hear a little bit of American in Paris. And in tomorrow's masterclass, she's going to tell us more about Eugenia Tour and play some of his more virtuosic compositions. Here is Rita Davidson in 5 o'clock Rush.
Eugenia Tour's novelty. It's called 5 O'Clock Rush.
This is a very popular piece.
Popular piece. It's, it's going through the traffic in New York. I think of New York City.
This piece.
It's just a fun piece.
Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Makofka has been producing quality work for many, many years. He lives up in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and he seems to find that as a inspiration for him. And this year, he has sent us something rather wonderful. And just wanted to look at the title. It's called Introduction and Song. And it's a wonderful video that goes along with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen and watch Introduction and Song by Doug Makofka.
snow is falling this time of year. Robin should be calling. Scratch out the snow where the crows and the juncos know to go and fill the need of friends who choose to be in this place with me. Will hang in the hall. Then the ghost of the wood will call. But for now the fire's been tending, and careworn garments
A lot of times when you do something very young and you get embarrassed by it, you find out that it was one of the greatest preparations for something later. I remember having to sing in a chorus, standing on the corner watching all the girls go by from The Most Happy Fellow. And I thought it was kind of corny back when I was in my late teens. But nonetheless, we had to sing it. Then, of course, later on, I get called by the New York Philharmonic to play an evening of Frank Lesser. And then later on, I get called to do a wonderful Da Capo theater version of The Most Happy Fellow, which is considered today to be one of the greatest. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Lesser was in the audience, and she was in her 90s, and I overheard her saying it was one of the best she ever seen and heard. And so you never know where these things are going to lead. And when I was with an accordion orchestra, the New Power Conservatory Accordion Orchestra, that's where I studied accordion and other things. We used to do all the Jersey Shore points. And Dr. Newpower had this idea that we would do the famous, I knew an old lady who swallowed a fly. We all had to line up, and some accordionist in our group played something like dum 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 bum bum, and then we had to line up. You know, I knew an old lady who swallowed a fly, and it embarrassed the hell out of us. But nonetheless, we had to do it, and we all lined up. And what happens when you get into something, and it happens to me all the time. A lot of times when you get into something you think is corny and whatever, all of a sudden, you find yourself getting into it. You say, first of all, you say, well, I'm here, why not? So you give it your all, and then you start enjoying yourself. And so over the years, I asked Milica Paranosik to write some music for me and music that I can play. And she got into the whole nursery rhyme thing. And sure enough, I get given a piece called Don't Swallow Flies, based upon that same nursery rhyme. And I'm saying, again, all that training worked up to this. Her version's a little punkier. She's a wonderful composer. She's from Serbia. She's written all kinds of music, orchestral, chamber, and also she's a DJ as well. And so I understand a new opera. But here is her version of Don't Swallow Flies. And I'm glad I had all that training that led up to it. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Don't know why she swallowed a fly, and perhaps she'll die. There was an old lady who swallowed a spider that wriggled and wriggled and giggled inside her. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. Don't know why she swallowed the fly, and perhaps she will die. Oh, there was an old lady who swallowed a bird. How absurd to swallow a bird. She swallowed a bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed a fly, and perhaps she will die. There was an old lady, she swallowed a cat. Fancy that to follow. Fancy that to swallow. Fancy that to swallow a cat. She swallowed a cat to catch the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. Don't know why she swallowed a fly, and perhaps she'll die. There was an old lady who swallowed a dog. What a hog, swallow a dog. She swallowed the dog to catch the cat to catch the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. Don't know why she swallowed the fly, and perhaps she'll die. Die, die. There was an old lady, she swallowed a cow. Don't know how, but she swallowed an effing cow. She swallowed a cow to catch the dog to catch the cat to catch the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. Don't know why she swallowed the fly, and perhaps she may die. Perhaps she might die. There was an old lady who swallowed a horse. There was an old lady And she's dead, of course. Do not swallow flies, old lady. Don't Swallow Flies by Milika Paranosik. I'll remember that. We're going to hear a world premiere performed by Gene Valonis and written by Melia Watras. And the title is 3 Songs for Bellows, Buttons, and Keys. Melia Watras and performed by Gene Valonis. Video by Gene Valonis. It's interesting to note that the drone aspect is a very effective tool for accordionists, and it's a very effective tool for composers. And for two reasons. Number one, it can supply a wonderful accompaniment to vocalizations. And number two, it can free up the right hand if you have to read music. So you have two things working in your favor. And also, if you have drones in the left hand that come out of the Stradella system, you can move in the chords if you want, and even in the clusters, and bring them back. And if you use the freebase system, you can actually have these wonderful single note chords and even glissandos. So they can be a wonderful composing tool. This brings us to the close of the day. And I'm Dr. William Schimmel, and I will see and be with you, of course, tomorrow. And I believe we now can have a forum where we can discuss all the aspects that went on today. Thank you.